Hello and welcome to Eastern Horizon. This is Malik Ayub Sumbal, and the tension between the Turkey and Israel has been increasing after the Israeli strike in Syria that has put Turkey and Israel in a position of the face-off inside Syria. So, what's going to be next, and what could be the reaction from Ankara? I have joined by Professor Cengiz Tomar from Ankara, Turkey, and Dr. Taleb Ibrahim. He's a Syrian expert. Thank you very much, both Professor
Right.
Cengiz Tomar and Dr. Taleb Ibrahim. So let me directly go to Professor Cengiz. That what's going on? Because my first question is this: that Turkey and Israel, I think they were quite pretty much on the same side while ousting Bashar al-Assad. So what's happening now, right now?
Actually, Bashar Assad, or Hafiz al-Assad, or we can call the regime of Assad, was good for Israel because there was weak outside of Syria, but there was powerful inside of Syria for their people. But after the regime collapsed and then new regime came in Syria, and also the Iran was very important in Syrian issue, but Iran now out of the picture, out of the play right now in Syria. Also, Russia is out of the picture, and just Turkey became. And another thing is that Turkey now is more powerful than the old times, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And because of that, there was, something like 10, 15 years between Israel and Turkey started Cold War, we can call it. But especially after the collapsing regime, after Ahmed Shara's regime came, and Turkey started to help this regime, politically and also militarily and economically. And I think is right now the most important fear for Israel is Turkey, and importance of Turkey in the region, and also a powerful Syrian regime, because there is a saying that there is no war without Egypt in the Middle East. There is no uh, salam, or there is no peace in the region without Syria. And now Syria started to become powerful, and with the help of Turkey. And another thing is that the Cold War was started 10 years ago, 15 years ago between Israel and Turkey. But right now, because of the elections, because Netanyahu or Israeli politicians always need something, some enemy to gain votes for the voters of Israel. Right now, there is no
Hmm.
Iran, there is no another country, there is no terrorist organizations in the play, in the stage. That's why they need somebody before the elections, and now Netanyahu started to play.
Okay.
But anyway, Turkey is more, clever, because we have 1,000 year in the region. That's why Turkey just started to be patient up to the election, I think. But if Israel still going on this kind of enmity to the Syria, and also the one Syria, the base was 70 kilometers from the Turkey's border, and this is very
Okay.
important, very close to Turkey. And Turkish radars detected and saw all these flights from aircrafts from Israel, but they did not trigger it once. But they will be patient up to the elections. But I don't know if Israel is still going on like that. It will be a problem for Israel.
Hmm. Dr. Talib Ibrahim, how you see that the current Syria, the current regime, and especially this striker that took place by the Israel in Syria? So, where you think that things can be further escalate?
Uh, I think now Israel considers Syria as a part of its dream of really, of building the greater Israel. Meanwhile, Turkey considering Syria as a hinterland, and Israel wants Syria as a living ground, and it is a great struggle with Iran and with other nations. And so it is a struggle for the influence for the areas of influence and the areas of power between Israel and between Turkey. Of course, Syria, there isn't no Syrian army and there isn't no real military, there isn't no real Arabian military power in the Middle East. Iraq has vanished, also Syrian army has vanished, and Jordanese army and Lebanese army are senseless, and of course Saudi army is not an army in real meaning. So the only strong power in the region is Turkey and Iran and Israel. And it is very well known that Israel wants to make a greater Israel and to achieve a lot of geostrategic ambitions. And now Turkey is a rival to Israel, and they consider Turkey as an enemy because Turkey is one of the greatest country in the Islamic world. From this point of view, Israel does not want to replace Iran with Turkey. They do not want another Iran in Syria, and they made a great struggle to push Iran out of Syria, and they pushed Iran and they pushed the Assad regime, and they cooperated with Turkey, but both sides were deceiving other side. Every side had his interests in Syria, and the Assad regime was a problem for all of them and was a problem for even for Syrian people and for even the international stability and so on. So now it is a struggle for influence areas, and it is a struggle between several projects. Turkey has a project, Israel has a project, and Israel has a project, and Iran has a project. And three projects are in clash in the Syrian territories, and I expect more and more tension will come by the time if Israel re-elected Benjamin Netanyahu, or if Benjamin Netanyahu feels that he will lose those elections. Of course, he will go to another war, and I don't think he wants a war with Turkey because this is very heavy on him. But what we'll do next, we can expect anything. I expect that he will make more and more tension in Syria, and he will escalate his aggression acts against the Syrian state, and he may occupy more and more Syrian territories. All of us know that now Israel controls 1/3 of the Syrian territories in the south, all the Suwaida province, all the Daraa province, all Quneitra province, and a very large side of Damascus countryside. And so, of course, in addition to the south of Lebanon, and if we reread the Zionist project by the beginning of 20th century on 1920, there were a project to annex the south of Lebanon, Abika Valley, Abika and the Jabal Sheikh area, and a very large parts of the southern Syria to the state of Israel because of water resources which are very, very much available there. And I think Israel is the project, and if Netanyahu comes or not, they will continue this project. But Turkey now Turkey is a real obstacle against Israel ambitions, and no one can expect what will happen tomorrow. Of course, we have been a real American policy in the Middle East, and we are always saying that there isn't an American policy in the Middle East. There is an Israeli policy which is being supported and implemented by the United States. Meanwhile, I remember Henry Kissinger, who said that in Israel, there is an external policy, there is internal policy, and they want to do it everywhere around the world. So we expect more and more tension by the approach of the elections in Israel.
Mm. So, Professor Cengiz Tomar, I mean that the United States has a big interest actually all in this Syria. And I think that the US acknowledged the de facto government of the current Ahmed Shara. So how US can de-escalate the situation between Turkey and Israel? And I think that the American ambassadors have given some interviews in which He's trying to explain something that the US intelligence reports says that there was no Turkish troops there, and even Israel did not warn Turkey. So, mean that how you think that the American interest and what exactly American want in this situation?
Actually, America tries to leave the Middle East, for a while. According to the Tom Barak, as well as Americans didn't get information from this attack, and also Turkey didn't get any information, and he called these attacks, as some silly or stupid attacks, against Turkey. America right now does not want any, problem between Israel and Turkey. So two allies of in the Middle East, and also Turkey is a NATO member. That's why, as America tries to, make some peace in the region for a while, especially for Syria, because America has a lot of problems with Iran, and also because of Netanyahu, it became in trouble in Iran and Hormuz issue. That Iran right now has strong things about Hormuz Strait. That's why I think the last country in the region to say something to America, to Israel, is America. If America tries to oppress Israel government, maybe they can do something as well. But I think is the elections are very important for Netanyahu, and he's in a very critical position right now. That's why he tries to attack Turkey and to get some gains from this play. But this Turkey is a very strong country in the region, and if starts to clash with Turkey, as Turkey is the last country that Israel could bomb everywhere in the region except for Turkey. It can bomb Iran, Yemen, and Egypt, Syria, and everywhere except for Turkey. That's why, and nowadays, especially in the last 15 years, Turkey is very powerful, especially in defense industry, and the second largest soldiers, or second largest army in the world as well, in NATO as well. And I think it's not wise to attack Turkey right now. Even in some Israel army, some critics about Netanyahu, and also Tom Barak says, clearly that it was not wise for attacking Turkey. I don't know. We cannot expect Netanyahu. You cannot expect Netanyahu. It's very difficult to say something to gain the power, or to gain the play and elections. Maybe he can do more, but I don't expect more, and I hope.
So, Dr. Taleb, the current government, the current regime in Syria, mean that how much they can mean the combat in case of the any advancement by Israel towards Syria. And my other part of the question is this: that do you think that any vacuum will give away towards the pro-Iranians element, and who can re-penetrate into Syria?
Please, I couldn't hear the second part of your question because your voice was poor. Could you repeat it, please?
I said that the Iran and the pro-Iranian forces in Syria. So, do you think that in case of any confrontation with Israel, there could be a chance that the pro-Iranian elements can get a rise in Syria again?
I don't think that there are pro-Iran forces inside Syria, and this is a fable indeed, especially at the current time. But Israel is looking for enemies, and if there isn't any real enemies, they must make them. They must bring enemies even from the outer space to execute their aggression policy against Syria and against Arabian nations, and they a real ambition more and more from Lebanon, and as I told you, there's a project for joining the southern parts of Lebanon and some southern parts of Syria to the state of Israel, and 100 years ago, and now they think that it is the right time to do that. And this is a part of the Israeli policy, and it is not related to the behavior of Turkey or to the nature of the regime of Syria, or if there are pro-Iranian or not. This is an Israeli policy. According to the current regime in Syria, as I told you, there isn't real army in Syria. There is no air force, there is no air defense, and there is no electronic warfare tools. So Syria is very, very weak at present time, but they have one point which will make Syria a little bit stronger. Their very distinguished relations with Syria, with Turkey, sorry, and Turkey, of course, will defend Syria, and they will not wait until Israel will come to their borders. So Israel, I think, will change the rules of the game inside Syria. Uh, I I expect that Israel will make more and more conspiracies to undermine the stability and the unity of Syria for their interest, and they may uh, trigger other problems in many parts in Syria. This is what I can expect. But if Israel wants to go to war with Turkey, I think it will be the end of Israel. Turkey now is not alone. Turkey has a very good alliance with Pakistan, which is a nuclear nation, and cannot. And if Israel will threaten Turkey by nuclear weapons, this will mean it is in because of the Pakistani nuclear power, and there are Saudi Arabia. This alliance, if it will live for a long time, and if it will be a practical and realistic, I think will put a real end to Israeli ambitions inside the Middle East. Meanwhile, now Syria needs a very long time to rebuild its army, to rebuild its economy, to prepare itself, not for war, to prepare itself to stay as a nation or as a country on the map. And I think the most important thing is for Syria is to reunify the Syrian population, which had been divided uh, in the last 15 years. And now, if you ask some Syrians, who is your enemy? They will say the other Syrians. If you go to Asweda, who are Syrian citizens, even they are Druze or not, that does not mean anything for me. But they are Syrian citizens, and they defended for the independence of Syria against the French. If you will ask them, who's your enemy? They will say the extremist Sunnis of who are in the power in Damascus. If you go to the Syrian coast, to the Alawite, who's your enemy? They will say to you directly, it is not Israel. It is those people who are controlling Syria and Turkey. And this will impose a very great problems for Turkey, for Syria, and for everybody. And this is a privilege to Israel. How we will avoid that? I think Syria needs to be rebuilt. The Syrian society and the Syrian nation must rebuild on new rules. And how we can do that? I think Turkey can play a very decisive factor in this issue. Turkey is a democratic nation, and Turkey very much advanced, and in Turkey all people are living in harmony, and they can make the same thing in Syria by unifying Syria, reunifying the Syrian society and the Syrian people, and that will mean the geography of Syria will stable, and Syria can rebuild its army and its economy, and we be prepared to war with Israel or others, and can be prepared for peace. It is not only for war. We are not only talking about war. it is much more dangerous to go to the peace process while you are very weak, because your enemy will put his conditions in you, and this will be a surrender. That shouldn't be a peace. And this is very important for Syria. So I think this is a very critical stage of the Syrian history, uh, for the Syrian state history. I mean, state, it is not for a regime or not for a certain minority or a certain religion, or that does not mean anything for me. But for the life of the Syrian state, this is a very critical stage, and we need the help of Turkey, we need the help of Saudi Arabia, we need the help of Iran. But we do not need Israel in any way, and we do not need the United States in any way, because both American and Israeli roles undermined Iraq, undermined Yemen, undermined Libya, and they undermine Syria, and they undermine every nation they will go to war in it.
Professor Cengiz Tomar, Dr. Taleb mentioned also about the recent Mecca Pact and the Mecca Defense Pact, because Turkey also become the part of this this defense pact. So, mean that how you see, mean that this is the practical, meaningful, and mean that this trilateral defense pact. Do you think that in any emergency or in any kind of the situation where Turkey or Israel heads toward any direct conflict, so this pact would be in action?
Yeah, because there are now two factors in Turkey. One is that is PKK. This is a terrorist organization of in Turkey, and already finished. And this is very important for Turkey, inside Turkey. And the second thing, that these agreements between Saudi Arabia and Turkey and Pakistan, I hope more countries from the region, to come to this agreement with Turkey and other countries, again, Israel and United States, because if there is no, some cooperation between these countries, they cannot, conflict. They cannot do something against Israel and America, because Israel is not that big, but America backs Israel always. That's why this agreement is very important. And Pakistan is a nuclear power and very big Muslim country in the region. And also Saudi Arabia is a important country, the leader of Gulf countries and Arab countries, and is financial power and also petrol they have. If I think because of Turkey now has a policy, to what is going on in the future. They can predict that, and that's why they are doing this kind of agreements in the region. If Turkey more allies in the region, and it is very difficult to Israel to attack them. Israel right now can attack Lebanon, Syria, and Iran, and everywhere. But I think that if there is, all countries in the region, agreed to cooperate against Israel, and it's very difficult to Israel to bomb everywhere, whatever they want. That's why this is very important. This agreement, I hope it works, because agreements on the paper, but it's different sometimes. When you started to play, and you have to secure this kind of agreements written and signed. And that is why Turkey now has a wise policy in the region, and Turkey powerful inside, because of this PKK issue out of the play, and also defense industry, and the army is powerful and helps to Syria as well, to coordinate Syrian army and to train them. And also this agreement issues with the big countries in the region, I think it helps against Israel. And Israel knows Turkey very well from the history. That is, Turkey is a soldier nation that in history, that from Mamluks and in 2000 years, and also in the region 1000 years, and big. It had big states in the history like Seljukids and Ottomans. They did a lot of things against Crusaders and the Mongols in the region to make region peaceful in the history, and they can do again.
But my follow-up question to you is this: that US was and Donald Trump especially was going to I mean introduce this Abraham Accord, but at the same time we saw that this trilateral defense agreement come in the name of the Mecca Pact, and then more countries they want to join. So mean that how you think that the US policy here, because US has a very strong relation with Israel, and mean that a lot of weapons, billions of dollars weapons Israel use. So Israel use a big defense industry of the Americans. So here my question is this: that this three countries like Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey defense pact. So is this something like with the consent of Washington, or this is something like this that it is some personal decision of these countries?
Exactly, according to Trump's acknowledge, that America welcomes this kind of agreements, because actually America or people of America now in this very economic situation is not very good because of the Netanyahu, because the war against Iran and other things, the rise petrol prices and other things. Actually, Israel deteriorates United States as well, and economy as well. Trump, is a businessman. He knows this thing. But Abraham Accords didn't work very well. Saudi Arabia didn't sign, and some other countries that already signed. But I think the Abraham Accords didn't work because of the Israeli aggression everywhere in Lebanon, in Gaza, and killing people, and that they are taking homes of people and also soils of people. They are doing everything in Gaza, in Palestine, and Lebanon, in Syria, and everywhere. That's why Abraham Accords. Okay. Prophet Abraham was a very important figure in history of the region, but there is no peace with Israel. Israel doesn't want to understand any peace in the region. He wants to create in big Israel in the region. That's it. They don't like Arabs, they don't like Turks, they don't like Iranians, except for themselves. That's why you cannot do something with kind of the people. That is why I see that these agreements are very important for Turkey and for the region as well.
Okay, and how you think that the PKK mean that that is something like this that was a very big threat for the Turkey, especially inside. So, in case of any destabilization of the Syria or this de facto government, how do you think that this PKK would pose some sort of the threat inside Syria towards Turkey? Is there any threat?
Actually, yeah, it was a threat from Syria's side, but because of the Turkey started to make a Syria unity. This is very important, unique Syria. Without the, ethnicity or sects or religions, and like Turkey. Turkey now we have, different sects and different religions, and then they work in harmony and peaceful. But Turkey, as Taleb Ibrahim said, Turkey wanted to Syria like Turkey, okay? Because if you go to sectarian wars and ethnicities and religions, it doesn't work. Syria, 20 million Syria, and on a lot of different parts of the religions and ethnicities. That's why if we could create Syria like Turkey, and it affects all the region, and this is very important. It affects Iraq and affects Yemen and all countries in the region. This is very important. I think now is PKK is not a real threat inside Turkey, and Turkey signed some kind of agreement with this organization is now losing all territories and their efficiency as well. You remember in 90s, PKK was very efficient in the region, and not in Turkey, in Iraq, in Syria, and also Lebanon. Now, as I see in Turkey, PKK is already finished. And if we can create a unique Syria unity in Syria, I think we can do something against Israel in the region. Otherwise, there is no chance.
And Dr. Taleb, my last question, that in GCC, there are many countries who have diplomatic ties with Israel. So under this current trilateral defense pact, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Turkey, many countries are expected to join, in which Bangladesh has been mentioned that they might join this defense pact. So how do you think that the division would be there? Because do you think that there could be a situation in GCC that some countries will be openly support Israel, and there could be some two blocks like pro-Israel and anti-Israel bloc? Is there anything expected to form in the Middle East and GCC?
In Middle East, you can expect anything indeed, and as again, I will remember an essay to Kissinger who said that in Middle East there is a struggle between two halves of truth and absolute truth. So it is very hard to predict. But yes, you are right. I think look at the United Arab Emirates, which is very close to Israel, and it's deeply interlinked with the Israeli economy and intelligence and all kinds of policy. And me, you, and our friend Cengiz from Turkey, all of us forgotten India. If you remember that the on the Mecca, he said, I threaten that is changing in the Middle East, and this is a very big threat for us, it means for India. And I think there is an initiative for economy which extends from India to United Arab Emirates and to other nations as an alternative to the Chinese initiative of Ubur and the Silk Road. So I think, yes, there might be two blocks in the GCC, and moreover, I expect that India will play more and more strategic role in the region and the neighboring area in cooperation and coordination with Israel. And Israeli-Indian relations, it has been improved in the era of Modi. And before Modi, in the era of Gandhi and others, there were good relations between Israel and India. Now, unfortunately, Israel and India are approaching very, very quickly, and there is a secret coordination between two nations on intelligence level, and it may extend to make a cooperation in the military and technical field, and this will impose a great threat to the all Islamic world and to the Arabian world. But I don't want and I don't hope that any Arabian country will be with Israel, because Israel is an absolute enemy. Also United States to Arabs and to Muslims, and they want only oil, and they want to fragment the area. And we say always that the new Middle East is to fragment and to divide all the countries and all the nations of the Middle East. Look what is happening in Syria now. As I told you and our audience, that Syria actually is divided. The Syrian society is not concrete, and it is deeply divided. And I told you that if you ask some Syrians, who's your enemy? They will say Alawite. Others, who is your enemy? They will say Sunnis. Others, who is your Druze and Christians. So, and this situation is very, very, very dangerous to the future and to the unity of Syria. And they will, and something like that had happened in Iraq, when Shia and Sunni became enemies. And until now, there is a kind of tension between the two Islamic groups. Also, Kurds, we mustn't forget Kurds. So, Israel and the United States will play in those contradictions between different nations, and GCC is not an exception. How they will work, I think that, of course, Arabia will stay in this pact. Also, for some extent, Qatar, but no one can expect or predict about United Arab Emirates, about Oman, about Kuwait, and about the Indian Gulf. What will happen to the southern Yemen, and so on. And we mustn't forget Iran. And I hope that the Mecca pact will, or Iran, I hope that Iran may join the Mecca pact, and I hope that we will reach a moment in which all Islamic nations are unified to prevent any sectarian war inside the Islamic world, which is very, very dangerous, especially in Syria, in Iraq, and also in Iran and in other nations. Second, all those nations must be unified and make a concrete strategy for the future in education, in economy, cooperation with those nations. If we reach this point, there will be no enemies for Islamic world, because no one can classify himself as an enemy to the whole Islamic world. Otherwise, we may predict and we may expect anything. I am very anxious about the future, because we are trying to make a unification inside the Islamic world and to make Islamic world as a concrete block, but others will do everything to prevent that. Israel, Europeans, Indians, and Americans, of course.
Thank you very much, Dr. Taleb. So, thank you very much for Professor Cengiz, Tomar, and Dr. Taleb Ibrahim. I really appreciate your insight, and I think that the viewers will also get some new perspective in this discussion. Thank you so much for joining me, Professor Tomar, again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.